Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening from wherever you are joining us in the world, the United Kingdom, from Africa, Nigeria, the United States of America. I say welcome to tonight's show. I want to start tonight by saying shout out to one of my classmates, Amaka Omenka, Amy. I know you're watching from US. I know it's in the middle of the day there. And I really, really appreciate that you took your time out to join me tonight. Thank you for always supporting me. God bless you. Mwah. I want to shout out also to my producer, brother, Mr. My son stroke brother, my family, my own person, Eddie Egwaoje. You know, there's something about time. It's very important that we do things on time. And I'm always happy because he's always here before me, ready to crack on before 7. And once it's 7, we go live. So thank you, Brother Eddie. And thank you also to Brother Chika Amogu, the other producer. God bless both of you. God increase you on every side. Today is the 29th of June, 2020. And this is your show, Relationship Tips, Talks, and Tales. I'm shooting live from the studios of Christ the Rock International Ministries, based in Gillingham, Kent, in the United Kingdom. So I want to tell you a little bit about Christ the Rock International Ministries, popularly called CTRIM. We are a family-based church, and it's a family because we love one another, we care for one another, we support one another, and we do things together. And I want to thank my pastor for allowing me to live my dream, for allowing me to use the church premises, the studio of the church, the resources of the church to air this show, for believing in me and for encouraging me to do what I know how to do best. And for those of you who know me, that's why I started with Amaka Omenka this evening. I like to talk, not from today. From when I was a little girl, I love to talk. And I found out that I can talk and use my gift to bless people. I don't have to just talk nonsense or gossip or, do what people do that is negative with their mouth. And so that's why I really, really enjoy what I do. And my pastor helped me to discover that gift. For years, he was pushing me. And finally, one day, many of you might think that I'm a very confident person, but I needed him to push me to do what I do. It's one thing to talk, among 2, 3, 4 people. Another thing to talk in the studio whereby the whole world is watching you and you are talking live without, know what you're going to say next. Sometimes you are short of words. But, I just give God the glory for how far he has led me. I thank God for the woman I have become. I thank God because I'm enjoying my life. I'm empowering myself, empowering others. And I'm just, living my life the way I want to live my life. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to my pastor, Pastor Jide Oseni. Thank you to his wife and the family. And thank you to the whole CTRIM family for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to also say thank you to my viewers for joining in. Very, 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 very special people always join me, always support me, always love me. They don't get tired. They come every Monday. They are here. They keep coming. They keep calling me. They keep supporting me. And guess who I have first? My darling sister, Miss Emalohi Irobe. She's the first to say something to me on the line. And she's saying, hi, sis. Emalohi, before I speak next Monday, your birthday would have come. And I want to celebrate you this evening to say happy birthday in advance, darling. I love you. You hold a very, very special place in my heart. You've been there for me through my challenges. You're always there. You're always coming. You love my children. They feel so free with you. They tell you everything, the good and the bad. Even what they cannot tell mommy, they can tell you. Happy birthday, darling. And I pray you have a beautiful day when you celebrate your birthday on Thursday. Amaka, yes, thank you. You're appreciating the shout out. Thank you very much, Amaka. I really do appreciate you. God bless you. Grandma, you know I love you. Grandma is one of my big supporters. Thank you so much, Grandma. Good evening, Ma. My darling daughter, Ifoma, which is the wife of Eddie. You know, it's so funny because I met Eddie first and I just fell in love with him. He's a very humble person. You can tell that, you know, when a child is trained properly by the parents, Do you know how you know? When they're away from home, they have opportunity to misbehave, to do what they like, to live wildly. But this man called Eddie, he came to church, and you can see that he came from a very good family. He behaved himself, and I just fell in love with him. And he got married, and I met the wonderful wife, and the love I have for Eddie and Ifoma, it goes without saying. And Ifoma, I cherish you so much. You are one of the few people in this world that can ask me for almost anything, and I will give to you. I have a few of them like that I actually take as my children. Funke Koka is one of them. Ifoma is one of them. Priye Sise is one of them. Apart from Michael and Sophie. I'm calling their names out for them to know that I appreciate them. When you call me mom, I appreciate you. Thank you for that honor. You see, my uncle is on again. Uncle KG, welcome. I'm not going to forget your name now. Uncle KG, thank you for joining the show this evening. Emma Lohi, yes, I love you too, sis. So, this is relationship tips, talks, and tales. We're waiting for more people to join. I'm just going to say that people ask me that, is it just about relationship? And I want you to know that it's not just about relationship with the opposite sex or relationship with man and woman or stuff like that. No. It can be relationship to do with your mental health, for example. What relationship do you have with your mental health? What relationship do you have with yourself? What relationship do you have with social media? So it can be any type of relationship, not just relationship with people. But we're starting off talking a lot about relationship with people because those are the common things. And I'm looking forward to doing more shows about other kinds of relationship apart from, relationship of man and woman. So for example, relationship in the workplace, how we relate to people in the workplace, especially for us that live in the diaspora. We are used to talking with our hand and doing our head and gesticulating, and sometimes the white man thinks that we are being aggressive. So I'm looking forward to doing a show about that. So like I said, that relationship bit of the title of the program is to do with any kind of relationship. At the moment, I am doing a study of myself. It's called the study of oneself. That is a relationship. I'm actually in a relationship with me. And I will encourage you that the first step to greatness is knowing who you are, having a relationship with yourself. A friend of mine, Dolapo Adeyeku, taught me something late last year. She said that she was writing points about herself. So say you are 30 years old. You write 30 things about yourself. Get to know yourself. What do you really like? What don't you like? What's your best color? What's your best food? Just use your age to write that number of things about yourself and know yourself and know what you stand for. So I'm looking forward to talking about other types of relationship. So in the show, we talk about relationships, like I said. We give you tips. We talk about it. And also we tell tales. And by tales, I mean stories. And, since we started about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, we'll be doing talks, we'll be doing tips. And that's why I wanted to bring a tale today. And it's a tale of betrayal, a tale of pain, a tale of something bad that happened to someone. And this sister called me. Actually, it's not a new story to me. I was going to air the story in my previous show, 2 Minutes Sunday, over a couple of weeks. But somehow, events overtook that plan. And today, I'm here to tell the tale. Because she actually reminded me the other day that, you haven't told my tale, and this is a good opportunity. And so when she did, I decided to, do a tale today and not a talk or a tip. So I'll be doing a lot of talking to tell you the story. In about 10-15 minutes, I should be done. And then I'll be welcoming your questions, your suggestions, your what do you see about what's your take on the story? How do you view the story? Because it's a bit, I have mixed feelings about it. But I want to tell you that this sister, she's on tonight, and she's here. And she's already sent me a text on WhatsApp that she's listening. And she wants to hear your advice. She wants to hear, what do you think happened to her? What do you think she should do? And let all of us learn 1 or 2 lessons from her story. So, Sister Bisola, good evening. God bless you, darling. Mrs. Zubi, thank you very much for joining in. I love you specially. God bless you. My pastor, father in the Lord, Pastor Bode Akinditure, I greet you. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much for joining me. Um, my mommy Faith, all the way from Ireland, I greet you also. Thank you for joining me. So I'm going to go straight to my story. Should I or should I wait a bit more? Let me see. I have 19 people online. Should we give people grace and wait for 2-3 minutes while people join us? While we are waiting, I will tell you a bit about myself. So my name is Lady Edith Adebayo. I am a therapist by profession. I work for mental health team older adults. So I'm an occupational therapist by profession. I'm a mom and I'm a lover of God. I absolutely love God. I'm a Christian. And I try to be fair when I talk about the things I want to talk about. But unfortunately, because I've been a Christian for many years in my life, and actually absolutely believe in the Bible, in the words of God, I find it difficult to not give my views based on biblical principles or what the Bible says. So sometimes you might feel I'm leaning towards the Bible or towards Christianity. Because for me, and like many of you know who have been in God for a while, know that Christianity is actually a way of life. It's not a religion like some say. So when you become a Christian, you form a relationship with God, with the church, with other people, you fellowship with people, and it becomes a way of life. And it gets to a point that that's just what you know. That does not say that we don't commit sin or we don't fall by the wayside. That's not my point. My point is that, I always bring my views based on what I know from the Bible, from experience, from, my knowledge I've gathered around my few years on earth. Welcome again to my mom. My mom, Mrs. Hosseini, is online. Mom, I love you. Thank you so much. You are a very special one, and I know that God has really used you to help people like us to be on, who born me, like in Nigeria we say, to come show face for inside YouTube, if not because CTRIM gave me the opportunity. Thank you, ma. Pastor is also online. Good evening, Pastor. God bless you. Sister Joyce, hi, big sis. Yes, darling. God bless you so much. You're so consistent. Thank you for joining me. And my big sis, Mrs. Ashby, is online. Big sis, I love you. Thank you so much. And my darling Iya triplex. This woman has triplex, not one, not two, blessed with 3 beautiful, wonderful children. God bless you, Mrs. Omoye. Thank you so much for joining all the way from Nigeria. So yes, I'm going to start my story now. Let's see how many people we have now. We have 23. Kindly forward the link. Kindly share the link to your contacts. Invite people to come and join the show tonight. You're going to learn something. Kindly share. Kindly subscribe as well. And when you press the subscribe button, it will notify you every Monday. Even before the link is sent to you, you would know that the show is on. And that will also help you to know the other shows that we do in CTRIM. It's not just me. I have 2 other wonderful sisters who also do shows. Mrs. Jane Jack, she's a nurse by profession. She brings the medical world, simplifies it for people like us that are not very, understand the medical terms, to know what is happening and to have some good insight into little ailments that before they become big, we can do something about. So that show is very wonderful. It's called Join Jane, and she holds it every other Thursday here in this same studio. And we have Anything Goes with Chichi Zubi. I had so much fun on Chichi Zubi's show yesterday. I went back to listen to myself and I was laughing because I was making some jokes. She was talking about people that are selling all this special package and, touch and go when you want a man. And I'm thinking, which man do I want? He has to be very, very rich for me to spend 350,000 naira to buy special package. But anyway, you can listen to that show. You will learn something. It is still on YouTube, and you can join her every Sunday at 5 p.m. My Lady Joy, God bless you, Mrs. Enebe. God bless you. Thank you so much. And my another darling sister from Federal Government Girls College, Sharon Shasha. Thank you for joining the show tonight. So I'm going to go straight to my story. So obviously, for confidentiality purposes, I will be using pseudonames. I won't be calling the actual names of the person that the story happened to. And I will not be giving the story in the full detail so that she will not be identified. That is to protect her identity. I think that is fair and that is the right thing to do. So I'm going to be giving everybody names. So basically in this story, there are 4 main characters. The first character is a male. He is about, is in his early 30s, mid 30s, about 35 years old. And his name is Raymond. So the first person is Mr. Raymond. The second person in the show is in the story is another male, and his name is Mr. Richard. He's also similar age to the first person, Mr. Raymond. Raymond and Richard are very good friends. They grew up together in Africa, and they are very good friends. The third person in the show is another male, and his name is Mr. Henry. And Henry is the third man in the story. And the fourth person in the story is a lady, and her name is Nancy. For confidentiality purposes, her name is Nancy. And it was Nancy who called me to share the story with me. So I don't know the other characters, I only know Nancy. So what Nancy said to me was that she lives in the United Kingdom here, and she's been finding it difficult to be in a relationship, in a long-term relationship. And she's been struggling in and out of relationships. She's not been able to settle down to get married because she never, really meets the right man. So she is on social media, and she's on Facebook. And one day, Sister Jane, welcome to the show. God bless you. Sister Shade, welcome to the show. God bless you. Thank you so much. So one day, while on Facebook, she got a message from Raymond. And then Raymond was asking her, Nancy, are you the same Nancy that we grew up together in Africa? And, she now remembered, oh, wow, Raymond, wow. They now reconnected, exchanged numbers on Facebook, and they spoke. And Raymond, to their surprise, they are both now living here in the United Kingdom, Raymond and Nancy. They grew up in the same neighborhood in Nigeria. They worked, they lived in the same area in Nigeria. And they knew as youths, and grew up together. And somehow they lost contact, and everybody went their separate ways. And many, many years later, I think up to 15 years later, they found themselves in the UK, and they connected through Facebook. So Raymond told Nancy he's now married. He had a few kids, and he was very happy. And Nancy then told Raymond that, well, she's struggling. She hasn't been able to settle down. She's not been able to find a man that will love her, cherish her. She feels she's always been used and dumped by men. She's not been really, really successful in that area of her life. So Raymond was surprised that, you're a beautiful chick now. Where Africa will say, where I day. He has friends now who are single, looking for a nice woman like you. You work, you are together, you speak good English, you are very presentable, you're pretty. He has a lot of friends that he's going to connect Nancy to one of his friends. So lo and behold, Raymond then connected Nancy to the second man on the show, on the story, who is Richard. So although Richard and Raymond grew up together, but Nancy did not know Richard. I think maybe Richard and Raymond went to the same secondary school, but Nancy and Raymond lived in the same area. So Richard and Nancy, they don't know themselves. But Raymond then introduces Nancy to Richard. Richard is a single man, never been married. Both of them, they are both single, and they connected, Raymond connected Richard and Nancy. So Richard took Nancy out. Nancy drives, but Richard does not drive. So they met up in this fancy restaurant. They went out once or twice. And, then Richard invites Nancy to his house. So Richard lives in a shared accommodation, whereby he was renting one room upstairs in this accommodation. So, because it's not my story, I'm trying to piece the pieces together in my head without looking into my notes. But pardon me if you see me looking into my notes. I don't want to miss any important bits because I've written them down here. So, bear with me, sorry. Yeah. So, Richard invites Nancy to his accommodation. So she went to visit Richard in his accommodation. And they went out for a few, now and again. They were not intimate. They did not have any sexual intercourse. And Nancy told me that, Lady Edith, I actually liked Richard, but there was one problem. They had a different religion. So Richard is a Muslim and she's a Christian. And she said she didn't feel comfortable, marrying a Muslim. And that held her back from pursuing a deeper relationship that might have led to marriage with Richard. So they just decided to remain friends, and she just felt when it came to a point in time, they were going out all the time, going for meals, and she just felt if he's not going to go anywhere, why waste my time? Why waste his time? So they just decided to remain friends, and they didn't pursue the relationship further. So they stopped seeing each other. They talk on the phone now and again, according to what she said. So one particular day, Nancy said she was driving when she received the phone call. And the person on the other line said, "Oh, hello. Can I speak to," okay, let's look for a name for this person now, "Mr. Moses." And Nancy was like, "There's no Mr. Moses here. You've got the wrong number." And the man was like, "No, my name is Henry. I spoke to Moses about 3 hours ago. He just landed from Nigeria. He's my friend. And he called me from the airport, and he said that he was in town, and we planned to meet up. But at the time he called me, he hadn't gotten a number yet, a phone number. So this is a number he gave me of the person he was going to be putting up with while he was in London for his vacation." So Nancy said she said to the man, "Mr. Henry, I'm sorry. I don't know any Mr. Moses. I don't have any visitor from Nigeria. I don't know anyone like that. I'm sure you must have maybe missed one digit when he gave you the number. I'm sorry. I don't know anybody bearing that name." So the man apologized and hung up. About 5-10 minutes later, another call came from the same gentleman asking to speak to Mr. Moses. So she said, "Sister Blessing Omodia, thank you for joining. You love my lipstick. Thank you. Let me kiss you with my lipstick, Sister Blessing. Thank you. And Mr. Coca, good evening. Well done. Thank you for joining. God bless you." So Nancy said she got another call again from this same Mr. Henry, and she was like, "Mr. Henry, I've told you, you called before. I've told you I don't know any Moses. I don't have any guests from Nigeria. I don't know anyone called Moses. You have the wrong number, basically." So the man apologized again and dropped the phone. And not long after, he called again. I think he called about 2 or 3 times that day. I'm not very sure. Okay, no, sorry. A few days later, she got a call. I think she said 2 or 3 days later, not few hours, days. She got a call from this Mr. Henry. She didn't save the number, so she got a call from an unknown number. So she picked up the call, and the man said, "Oh, it's me, Mr. Henry. You spoke to me a few days ago. I was looking for my friend Moses. Thank you, thank you. You did not abuse me. Some people will abuse other people. You were very polite on the phone. Fortunately for me, my friend called again, so we've seen." He said, "But, I really liked the sound of your voice when we spoke on the phone. You were so put together. You were so polite. You were not like the normal woman that will shout. I've told you before, don't call my number again. Are you deaf? This, that. You were so polite. And I actually like you, and I've been thinking about you since we spoke on the phone." So Nancy said that she laughed, and was like, "You're funny and everything." And the man was like, No, I'm serious. It has never happened to me before that I would just hear somebody's voice and I'll be intrigued about this person. I just want to know you, let's be friends. And she said that she didn't have anything to lose. She wasn't in a relationship. And, what is there? So they started talking on the phone, and she got to know that Mr. Henry told her that he was married before and he lived in the United States of America. Unfortunately, his marriage produced one child, but it ended in divorce, and he was so bitter, and he couldn't continue to stay in America, and he decided to relocate to the United Kingdom. He didn't live in London. He lived outside London. Let's just say he lives in Birmingham. That's not what she said, but let's just use Birmingham. So he said, "Well, I live in Birmingham." He said he worked for the local council in Birmingham, and he was very happy to connect with her. And she shared her own self, "Hello, darling, Kate, Mrs. Ojo, mwah, my nearest and dearest, love you, thank you." So she said that, they got talking on the phone, and before she knew it, they were talking every day, and before she knew it, they were talking every few hours. She just loved everything about him, the way he talked on the phone, and he loved her. They were getting on so well, Nancy and Henry. They were getting on so well. So, You know how it is when you first meet someone you love, so they will call each other, they will spend hours on the phone till night time, and they will both say, you know, we have to really sleep now because there's work the next day. So they were really, really getting close. And about a month later, yes. So about a month later, Mr. Henry said, you know, we've been talking on the phone, we haven't seen, and obviously because Nancy lives in London and he lives in Birmingham, that was why they hadn't seen before then. But he said that he felt it was time that, you know, they actually met physically. So Nancy was very excited. She agreed. So he came over to London on a Friday evening. He said after work he would get the train and come to London. So she picked him up from the station and she took Henry to her flat. She said she had cooked some wonderful meal. It was, you know, that as soon as she saw him, of course, they've seen their picture, they've exchanged pictures. So all that time, they've exchanged pictures, but they haven't actually seen physically. So as soon as she saw him, she said she liked what she saw. He was very handsome. His manners on the phone and the way he spoke to her and, you know, the romance they've built on the phone, it matched the personality that she met. She really, really, really liked him. And he also liked her so much. And she said that they spent a wild weekend together, in her own words. And they were intimate. They didn't go out all weekend. They were talking. They were planning their future. You know, she cooked. That she really had a wonderful, wonderful weekend from Friday night, the whole of Saturday. And by Sunday evening, they had to go back to Birmingham because there was work the next day. So they were very sad to part from one another, but they had a plan that in 2 weeks' time, Nancy will return the visit and go and know him, and know his place in Birmingham. So they parted very, very unable to leave one another. They were already missing one another. You know how it is when you fall in love. So Nancy said she dropped him in the station, and she went back home. And 30 minutes later, she was already missing him. She was so eager to speak to him. And according to what she said here, I was writing when she was telling me, she said that she then couldn't hold herself anymore. She called him. Obviously, she has his number, and the number went straight to voicemail. So she was thinking that he's still on the ground, you know, going to Birmingham. 2 hours passed, 3 hours passed, 4 hours passed. She called him several times, and you know, it was just going to voicemail. And she was very worried. She tried to call the station, the train, look at the news, check Google, just to find out, did anything happen? Was there a crash? You know, and you know, this relationship, they don't know anyone that knows any of them. So what I'm trying to say is that Nancy does not know anybody that knows Henry. So she couldn't call Lagbaja to say what's happening, you know. She tried to use another number to call Henry's number, but the same thing, it was going to voicemail. She said she had a very restless night that night. She couldn't sleep. She was very worried. She was very concerned because the man that she spent the weekend with was not the man that, you know, would do that to her, that he won't call. So she was so worried that something had happened to him. She didn't have a forwarding address for him. She didn't have his email. She didn't know anything about him, only his number and the story he had told her. So the next day, she tried the number again, and this time it went dead. The phone just went dead. She used other numbers to call, it went dead. She said she got to work, she used her work number, it went dead. She went to her friend's house, she used their landline, it went dead. She went to the phone booth, she used the, you know, she said she tried different ways, it went dead. She was so surprised and bewildered, she couldn't believe. And she never ever heard, I'm looking at Nancy with side eye, continue. Abby Oni Window, my darling sister Bimbo, God bless you, welcome to the show. So, you know, this Nancy lady now, she was very unhappy. She was very, very unhappy. Nancy is listening to us, as you know. So let's try and support Nancy tonight. She's the one I know. I don't know Henry or anybody else in the story. So anyway, as the days went by, she didn't have a choice but to put Henry behind her, the incident behind her. Romance, passionate weekend, wild weekend, love of 1 month chatting on the phone, finally meeting and suddenly disappearing into thin air. And she's like, you know, she didn't know what to do but to forget about the incident. So she said about 3 months, not 3 weeks, I think she said about 3 months down the line, she got a call one day from from Moses. So remember, Moses is the person that, or have I mixed it up? From Richard, sorry. She got a call from Richard. So Richard is the man, hold on. Yeah, she got a call from Richard. So Richard is the man who her childhood friend, Raymond, introduced to her, that they didn't get along because she didn't want to extend the relationship because Richard and her were from two different religions. So she got a call from Richard. And unfortunately, the call was a very sad call. Richard told her that Raymond had passed away that morning. So Raymond is her childhood friend and schoolmates with Richard. She couldn't believe her ears. What do you mean Raymond died? So fortunately, Raymond had passed away. He had some problem, cardiac arrest overnight, and he died. So Richard suggested, I told you Raymond was married. So Richard suggested that they go to Raymond's house to say hello to the wife. So they went to Raymond's house, greeted, Nancy drives. So she picked up Richard and they went to, to see Raymond's bereaved wife. And they greeted her and everything, and they came back and she dropped off Richard in his place. Remember, she knows Richard's place. So what then happened was that the next day, Richard called Nancy and says that I left my jacket in your car, in your backseat of your car when you dropped me at home. So I really need to take my jacket, How do we arrange so I can pick up my jacket? So Nancy then says, oh, no problem. I know your house now. It's not cuckoo far from where I work. So on my way home, I'll drop your jacket for you. So they agreed a time. So Nancy went to Richard's house. When she rang the bell, lo and behold, somebody opened the door for her. And to her shock and amazement, it was Henry. The man she spent a passionate weekend with opened the door for her. So she was wondering, this man looks like Henry now. Anyway, she knows Richard's bedroom. I told you he lives in a shared apartment. So the man opened the door for her and went to a room downstairs. I suppose she said she's like, maybe how they do shared apartments. So the living room downstairs, that's the part of the house he had rented. So he went into his room and she climbed the stairs and went to meet, Richard was coming down, because he was expecting her. So they met on the stairs and she followed Richard upstairs to his room. And she said to Richard, who is that man who opened the door for me? And Richard was like, oh, that's Henry now, my flatmate. The first time you came here, I introduced you to two of my flatmates. He was one of them. And she was like, I can't remember. Are you sure you introduced me? He was like, yes, maybe he wasn't at home. I can't remember, Why? She said, he looks very familiar. You remember she spent a whole weekend with this guy. So she said that she just said to Richard, if you don't mind, excuse me. So she walked down, went straight to the bedroom that this Henry came out from, and went into the bedroom and said to him, excuse me, are you not Henry? And he was playing dumb. I'm Henry, so don't you know me? I'm Nancy. And he was like, no, I don't know you. She just said to him, shut up. Are you not the one who came from Birmingham, told him, said he just knelt down and started begging her. So she said she was wearing heels. She took off her heels and she gave him a knock with her heels on his head. And blood was coming out and he was screaming, don't kill me, I'm sorry. And obviously Richard ran down the stairs, went into Henry's room, saw her, she was hysterical, so she was crying. That, what do you mean? What's happening here? So she then explained to Richard, how did this Maga get my number? What's happening? She said she was confused. And Richard was begging that she should take it easy and explain herself. She now explained the story to Richard. And Henry was crying, he was bleeding. And she wanted to call the police, and two of them were calming her down. And Henry said to her that basically when she came the first time, he saw her, he really liked her look. She's very pretty. And he spoke to Richard about her, and Richard said, unfortunately, she doesn't want to date me because I'm a Muslim. And he really liked what he saw. So one day according to Henry, he lied to Richard, I want to borrow your phone to make a call. And it was from that phone that Henry stole Nancy's number from Richard's phone. Richard is saying that he wasn't aware that Henry stole Nancy's number from his phone. And Henry is also insisting that Richard did not know. So he said he stole the number, and he then formulated the story of, my friend came from Nigeria, I'm looking for Mr. Moses, do you know him? And from there, hatched his evil plan. And lied that he lives in Birmingham, he works for the council, he was married before, blah, blah, blah. And actually came and spent that weekend with Nancy. He said he really loved Nancy. He really wanted to keep a relationship with Nancy, but he didn't know how he would continue, being that him and Richard are living in the same accommodation. How is Nancy going to come there, knowing that, Richard saw Nancy first, and he didn't know what to do, and he just felt that the best thing to do was to cut everybody off. And when he asked Richard, Richard had said that they don't talk anymore. And that was true. They stopped talking. 3 months passed, they were not talking. If not that Raymond died, and that was why Richard called Nancy, that, Raymond had died. And then, as fate would have it, he left his jacket in her car. She had to come back to the accommodation, and she then saw, Henry again. So that's what happened. And Mommy, good evening, ma. Good evening, ma. Welcome. Thank you for joining. So, she wanted to call the police, like I said, but what she could just give her a crime reference number. She said at this point, even she was very scared because she had already used her heels to hit him on his head, and he was bleeding, and she didn't want to have also he will now persecute her or anything like that. So basically, she just went back to Richard's bedroom, took her bag, and she left the property and went home. So like I said, this story, she actually told me this story towards the end of last year, but I think it happened to her maybe in the last year or two. And she said that she's never really forgotten this story because she's always so perplexed. She doesn't actually know what happened. And I tried to dissect the whole situation for her, with her, and she just wants your advice that what should she do? What should she have done? Where did she go wrong? There are so many people who introduce people to people for relationship's sake. And one thing is that, for example, if I know you, the capacity in which I know you might be as a colleague at work, might be as a member of the same church, might be as a member of the same African community. I don't know you in the capacity of relationship. So when you're introducing somebody saying that this person is a good person, is it a good thing to introduce people to people? I've heard of some very successful relationships that people introduce them and they're still together, married for years. I've heard of some that have gone, the other way, gone south. So she said she doesn't know if, she shouldn't have allowed Raymond to introduce anybody to her. Then she's also said that she's not sure if she was set up, that did Richard and Henry actually know and set her up because she refused to sleep with with Richard, because she refused to have sex with Richard. She didn't want to pursue that relationship because he was a Muslim and she was looking for something very serious. So she felt that, there's no point. And she was saying that, or was she too desperate for a man? Because she said all her friends are getting married, they're having babies. She's never been in a serious relationship. And, excuse me, Henry just came from nowhere and swept her off her feet, and she thought that was, heaven on earth. So she's asking me that, what happened? Where did she go wrong? So this is the point I would like you to please call and tell me, what do you think happened? What advice do you have for Nancy? What advice do you have for young women out there who are not married, who people want to introduce to people? What advice do you have for people who introduce people to people? How do you see the story? What is your take on the story? Please call the studio. I'm waiting for your call on 07858 076 758. The producer will help us to put the number on the screen. Please call. Amaka is saying that these are men, and I use the label very loosely, in their mid-30s. How juvenile. Yes, they are in their 30s. Nancy herself is just about, I think, 31, 32. But she, when you start getting to that 24, 25, parental pressure, when are you going to marry? Your mates don't they marry, So she was really becoming desperate. She wanted to, get married herself. Grandma, thank you, thank you for joining. Amaka is, okay, she's retracted her message. So please call, producer, please put the number up for us. 07858 076 758. Sorry, my story took longer than 15 minutes. Maybe I should have done part 1 and 2. I don't know. I've told the story now. I'd like to hear your opinions. I'd like to hear your views. For me, I'm tempted to say that she was set up. I'm tempted to say that Richard and Henry, they knew each other. They lived in the same house. I have heard of men passing, details of women to one another. They sleep with the person. They pass the number to their friend. Go and toast her. Go and chat her up. And when you are becoming too desperate as a woman, you will be picking every Tom, Dick, and Harry. And before you know, you'll be finding yourself in this kind of, situations whereby a man will take advantage of you and have a wild weekend with you, do all what he can, under the pretense and disguise that he was looking for a wife, he wanted to settle down, he really loved you, and only for you to find out you've been violated. So how do you see the story? No one wants to speak to me this evening. Please call me. Please call me. And let me or write it on the thing. Thank you. I have a caller. Hello, caller.
Hello, I'm for the program. Hi.
Hello,
darling. This is Isha Sunday.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Imus. It's Sheyi from Edinburgh. It's all right.
Oh, hello, darling. How are you, darling?
Mrs. I've been watching, but I'm just using my phone. So
thank you very, very much. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that merely you started saying the story and the phone call being a repeated call. Most fraud cases that I do know about or have seen, that's how they come. So it was like, I feel she should have been more discerning. If you're going to go down the way of religion or Christianity, then it's better to play it according to the rules. I think that's where the thing all went wrong. Because if she had still held her guard and not allowed him to just come in, somebody you haven't actually met, even though you've been talking over the phone, it's like meeting somebody on Facebook. So when you now see the real thing, some of them end up being serial killers. But we're thanking God now that it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It's still the emotional and the psychological pain that she's going through, which I believe that she will gradually come out of.
Yeah.
But introducing people to people, I'm not really a fan of that. It's worked for some people, but I've seen a lot of lives that have been shattered because they were introduced. And because of that, I'm not really a fan of it. Even if somebody introduces, normally people who introduce are people maybe that like your mentor, family members, very good friends, people that really have your interest in that. But it's something you're going to go into. So even if you've been introduced, you need to have your own conviction. Don't allow yourself to be swept off your feet, because that's how it starts. And one thing I want us to watch out for, we have younger ones coming up. When the guy seems to want to do everything fast, especially those of us that were in the UK, we need to check. Is the person settled? Do you know everything about their status? It could just be that they want to use you as a means to an end. There are men like that. Or they're just wanting a fling. Initially, when I was listening to the story, I thought you were going to say, maybe the Henry guy was already married and had a family and he was just trying to just have a go at the poor lady.
Yeah.
But then it could be either way. It happens to people I know that these people are living double lives and it's not really the best. So even if somebody introduces, the onus is on the person that is going to be the benefactor to actually pray to God. Even if you're not used to God speaking with you, but when it comes to something that you set your heart on and pray to God, it could just be a dream.
Yeah.
It could just be somebody else that will give you an information and you just know, oh, thank God I escaped that. Because it does happen. When I was in Aberdeen, I had a colleague like that.
Yeah.
It was actually our elder sister that was going to go into trouble. We were working in the same place, and she mentioned it, and I asked a few questions, and she told me, yes, the guy is very desperate. He wants to rush into marriage. And I said, tell your sister not to rush. She should take her time. They are not Christian, but she should take her time because he might be up to something. And it always goes down that way. They always want to take advantage of somebody they know is settled and working out. So my prayer for Nancy is that God will lead her and grant her a good relationship.
Amen.
But if you want to marry and settle with a man of God, you should try to play by the rules. She won't have anything to lose. You should play by the rules, because then everything that is hidden will be brought to the open. At least before she says yes and goes to the altar, every dark thing will be exposed.
Amen.
That's just my advice. And
Thank you
the Lord
very
will bless
much,
her and uphold her
so
and heal her of whatever
Thank you
pain.
so much for calling. I'm very happy. Thank you very much. I thank you so much.
Okay.
God bless you. Thank you. That's my classmate from Nigeria, Shay. So thank you so much, Shay, for calling. So what Shay was saying was about this, having this discernment, having discernment. When you want to do something, have that discernment to know whether the thing is right or wrong. So Nancy, she's listening, like I said. So I promised Nancy that while the discussion is going, I'll be checking my phone if she has any questions or any additions. So if you ask questions, then she'll be contributing. So I'll check my phone in a minute. Maybe she has any question based on what Shay has said. But Amaka is saying that she thinks introductions are fabulous. It's a way to meet people, but the onus lies on the adult. So you have to play your own part and you have to do your own due diligence. A call is coming. Bear with me. Hello, caller. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Sister Dave.
Hello, darling.
It's Chichi.
I know your voice, even if they wake me from sleep.
Anyways, I just needed to tell the lady not to regret anything, you know. She tried to keep a relationship and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's not her fault. She should just take it that she enjoyed her wild night.
Yeah.
And there's no regret about that,
Okay.
you know. And for the guy, you know, the guy might be saying the truth, you know, how he got the number or something like that, you know. Maybe he might be saying the truth about everything. But the thing is, the lady should just move on.
Okay.
She should just move on and try and find another relationship. It will work. Many people introduce people, you know, to relationship and they don't marry. They are married till today, like me. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Some, that's what Amaka is saying, Because Amaka is also saying that Nancy made a few mistakes. Sister Chichi, what do you think? She said the UK is a small place. She could have, they were talking for a whole month before they saw that she could have, made some inquiries. Because that's what I said to her. She didn't know anybody that knows this man.
Yeah,
so
for
she
me,
didn't have his email.
It's a speed date, you know. People can just be where they are. They might say she made a mistake. But to her, and to me, she didn't make a mistake, you know. She wants to have a relationship. And this guy came just like that. But the thing is, there's some people that still have that kind of relationship and it's worked out, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not a failure to her, but just a lesson to her to move on and start a new relationship.
Okay. So what tips, Sister Chichi? What tips will you give to our viewers listening, young ladies who find themselves, in this kind of wild romance all of a sudden, somebody loving you? Our first callers talked about taking it easy, slowing down, and having the spirit of discernment. What do you think about that, please?
Yeah, to say it, it depends on your age now. Our younger ones, you can't even tell them what to do now because they think they know it all. To say it, let's just say the truth. The reality is that the way I am now, I am not like that 20 years ago, the way I will act now is not the way I will act when I was 20 years, So the thing is, the young ones now, they should learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say, because
Thank you, Sister
this relationship tips or this show that you're doing is making us to sometimes you learn and you retreat from your mistakes and do other things that will better your life, Now, so many people are in relationship like this lady's one, So they have to learn from what happened to this lady, and know the next step they will take, There's so many people, if you tell them now, they will tell you, oh, Holiantus or this one.
Yeah.
They will think you're too holy to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So from other people's mistake, I believe other people will learn from it.
Thank you so much, Sister Chichi, for calling. God bless you. Thank you.
Bye.
So Amaka is saying again that she thought that the story is going to be about, her belt weight with Richard. But it turned to a catfishing story. There's a lot of catfishing going around. Be careful, especially through social media. And Grandma is saying that poor lady, I think the man knows what they were doing to the poor lady. It was a setup. The first man wants to revenge because she turned him down. God will direct her to the right man. So that might be true. That's what I think as well. But Sister Chichi say forget what happened and, she had a good time that weekend and just forget. And Sister Chioma, thank you for joining the show. God bless you. And my darling Oluwashe Olukoya, another very special sister to me. She's actually my fashion designer. All the clothes I wear to church, 80% of them, she makes them. She's a very, very wonderful fashion designer in Nigeria. If you want her details, please see me. So Sheun, that's one dress for me for advertising for you. Hey. But thank you for joining the show. So I'm just going to see if Nancy has said anything while I wait for more calls. Okay. So what Nancy just texted to me, she said that it felt right. She said, sis, it felt right. Because I think she's saying, she just said, sis, it felt right. You know, when somebody was saying that, slow down, descending, because she, from the way she explained to me, like we've all said, she wanted to get married. She wanted to settle down. She said it felt right. The relationship felt right. At that point in time, it felt right to her. And like I said, we cannot just use the Bible all the time. I don't really know if Nancy's, I don't know her level of Christianity or her maturity, or, if she goes to church regularly, or that much detail about her. So at that point in time, I don't know. She just said it felt right for her. And she never knew that it would go sour. Don't dwell on your mistake for so long. Learn from them and move on. That's true. We have to move on. So, Sister Vero, also, thank you for joining the show. I'll call you after the show. So, the thing is that for me, I think we should learn. And I really, really like a few points that have been made already so far. Yeah, sometimes we need to slow down. When things are too fast, the popular saying, remember, I love my proverb, says that all that glitters is not gold. Sometimes when something is too shiny, too nice, too good to be true, happening so fast, and it might, you have to be, say, sort of like a it should be telling you, should be like an instinct, like a sixth sense, to be saying to you that, oh girl, oh boy, slow down. When somebody brings this business idea to you that looks too good to be true, or you children out there, our youths, they bring things to you that look too good to be true. They tell you that if you, I'll give you this phone for £50, and that this phone costs £150. Things like that. When things come your way, even as adults, that look too good to be true, I think we should slow down. That's one of the things I personally learned from Nancy's story. Don't be too much in a hurry to meet people, to force conversations, to force friendships, to force love. If someone genuinely loves you, but she said it felt right. And I think she said it felt right because it's been 1 month. They've been talking on the phone. The passion had been, it has risen. The romance was already there. The affection was already there. They were already feeling each other. So it wasn't a case of she just met the man and, they just slept together that first weekend. So she said it felt right. They've been making moves. And the next thing in line with the way the relationship was going was to see physically. So she said it felt right. So I don't know. My big sis Emilia Kumagba, Mrs. Kumagba, thank you for joining the show. Yes. Mommy Grandma says yes, all that glitters is not gold. That's true. So we should be careful. So our young ones, I agree with Amaka that there's nothing wrong with introducing you to other people. But what I don't want is, I've heard of stories whereby people introduce people to people and they want to take control, or they want to know what is happening. If through you people meet, leave them, like Amaka said, leave them to form their friendship, to form how they know. You don't have to go to the point of saying, I can vouch for this person, I recommend this person, this brother is good, this sister, she's good, because you've not dated the person. You don't know how they're going to be in a relationship. You haven't spent, days with them at home. You might not know them, you might just know them at work. Because you see, me Edith, I have different personalities. How I present when I'm talking to Chichi, when I phone in her show, is not how I present when I'm doing my own show. How I act at home is not how I act in church. How I act at work is not how, and that's how it is for all of us. So people can present to you and show you a side of them that you think that this is how they are, and you don't actually know who they are. Why I'm saying this is because we don't actually know if Richard and Henry planned this thing like Grandma said. They might have planned, it might have been a planned work. And unfortunately, what's his name, died. So, you cannot really go back and ask him to say, what do you think? So we have to be very, very careful, with who you know and who you feel that you are introduced to somebody. Because I know that Raymond had good intentions from what Nancy said. You meet your friend, you just like me meeting any of my friend and they are not married. And I'm like, I know one brother now in my church who is single. Let me introduce you now, But let's be careful out there when we meet people. So Sister Rita said, yeah, it's good to introduce sometimes. It's not left for the person to study their partner and let the Holy Spirit reveal and know the other person. Yes. And then Sister Mawa, my lovely, lovely Sister Mawa, I love you, I miss you so much. She said, life happens, she should forgive and move on. Yeah, she has forgiven, she has moved on. But like I said, this is relationship tips, talks, and tales, and we brought a tale to you tonight, the tale of Nancy. It happened to Nancy, and we don't want it to happen to us. Mommy, Mrs. Yembra is saying, be open but cautious. Yes, be open but cautious. And it brings me to that question: when you meet somebody for the first time, how much detail? Because funny enough, I had another story this weekend of a lady who had a traumatic childhood and then got married, had a child, but the marriage ended in divorce, and she's been single for many, 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 many years. And she finally meets a man, and they formed a relationship. They planned the wedding, and they were talking. And in the course of that friendship forming, she revealed her traumatic childhood, her first marriage, all of this to the man. And after she did, the man then turned around and said she's had a dysfunctional upbringing. And he said he doesn't want to go on with the relationship with her. So how much should you reveal when you meet a man like we are matured and we are going into new relationships? Some of us, it's not everybody has the privilege of marrying the first person you are married with forever. Some people, they divorce, they separate, they get widowed, and you meet a new relationship. How much should you reveal to your new partner? How soon? How quickly? How much? And if you don't, I also know of a story of somebody who did not tell the partner that she was raped. And when they got married, she was having problems with, being intimate with him, and he never knew. And he divorced her. I've heard of stories as well of people who their so-called would-be husbands-to-be see them the way I look with full face of makeup. And when they finally meet and go into the room and the woman takes off all these fancy things and they're looking like, who are you? You are not the woman that I met outside. You look like a different person. That's fraud, isn't it? When you let a man, you put a big breast, long hair, big nails, big lashes, everything big. The man falls in love with what he's seeing. Because yes, in relationship, attraction is the first thing. And when you get home, you start removing everything, and then you see somebody else and it's like, who are you? So yeah, so how much should you expose yourself to somebody else? And not just for women, even men. How much should you expose yourself to someone? So that's probably another topic for another show. And the issue of meeting people, the social media, people are meeting on Instagram, on Facebook. There are many, many, many dating apps, dating sites out there. And you don't even know, like Sister Shei said, you might be meeting a pedophile because the picture they are painting for you on social media might not be, they might have a criminal record. How do you really know these things? So it's food for thought as you're going out there and meeting new people, not only in the line of relationship, even in business. People defraud one another. Even in business, they lie to you and they do a lot of things, and you lose your money in the end. You lose your integrity, you lose your name, and you really become disappointed and down. And Sister Blessing, please, can you, something has come on the screen, sorry, producer. Sorry, I was going to read. Sister Blessing said, every disappointment is a blessing. That's why you're called Sister Blessing. God bless you, Sister Blessing. Blessing, let her move on. Her bone of her bone is waiting for her. A very nice, godly, rich man. I wish her the best. Thank you, Sister Blessing. So, Sister Nancy, you heard that. People are wishing you the best. She has moved on. She's still looking for someone. She's asked me, what do you think about dating sites? How do you meet people these days? If someone introduces someone to you, like in her case, it didn't work. So she's now anti-introduction. She doesn't want anybody introducing somebody to her. She goes out with her friends, but she's not met somebody. Do you use dating sites? Should you go on dating sites? When people see your picture on social media, like there was last year, I joined Facebook, and I told the producer, if you see the number of people that were chatting me up and the rubbish they were sending to me, I had to deactivate the account and run away. I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with the level of I love you, you are looking so fine. Are there still find people like this in this world? How come we've never seen you on Facebook? All those rubbish. So how do you meet somebody when you are single? How do you move on? I mean, even in the church, people pretend. There are people in the church that pretend. They pretend to be Christians, but the Bible says that by their fruits you shall know them. Sister Rita said, when you are in a desperate situation, a guy comes into your life to show you love, it's very difficult to start digging to find out if it's genuine or not. All that's in your mind is finally you got one. So yes, when I met my husband, the day he proposed to me, I actually slapped him because I've been single for 10 years. And then suddenly we were dating, and one day he asked me, will you marry me? I gave him a slap. I said, where have you been? I've been waiting for you all this time. Where have you been? So yes, when you become desperate, you can make a mistake. That desperation, may God not allow us to be desperate. We end up rushing in and rushing out. And sometimes it doesn't work. If you are lucky, if you are blessed, it might work. And Big Sis Betty is saying, there's nothing wrong with introducing two beautiful people for a relationship, e.g. Prince Henry and Meghan. Move on there, Nancy. The right person will find you. Thank you very much. So yes, so there's nothing wrong, but be on your guard. Open your eyes, be sharp about what you're looking for, and remember, go back and listen to 2 Minutes Sunday where I talked about red flags, amber flags, green flags. When you are in a relationship and you are seeing the amber flags, the little signs, they are warnings. Begin to watch out. You can still pedal on in the relationship, but when you begin to see the red signs, the red flags, it's time to pack your bag and run and say no, no, no. So for her, Richard being a Muslim was a red flag. She said she couldn't, and so it's funny how one cannot marry a Muslim, but then they can have sex before marriage and get violated. So you see, we are all different, and we all see life differently, and we all take things differently. But anyway, that is my tale for the evening. It's 8 o'clock now, and the show has come to an end. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for sharing the link. Thank you for subscribing. God bless you as you have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead of you. Today is Monday. Go and live your dreams. Go and be fruitful, and go and do what you know how to do. So next week, I'm bringing a new topic, and my topic is going to be in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, and it's titled, Is Marriage a Scam? Is marriage a scam? I'm going to start with the perspective of the male or female. I'll decide 1 week, and the next week I'll do part 2 with the perspective of a male or female. I already have an interesting caller that will join me on the show to share her views on if marriage is a scam. And funny enough, after this show last week, I had some discussions with people that were with me in the studio, and we're talking about prenuptial agreements when you marry, alimony, and all sorts of things were coming up. So do you think marriage is a scam? Let me hear your views. You will hear mine next week and the week following, and you will hear the views of other people. God bless you. Have a good week, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.